what's the farthest you have ever run? 1K, 10K, a full marathon, perhaps 100 miles? The longest race I have ever run was over 10,000 miles. It took me over 30 years to complete, and it nearly killed me. My race started in Vietnam. It started before I could even walk. Let me take you back to April 30th, 1975, to the fall of Saigon, the event that changed the fate of millions of Vietnamese people, including my family. This baby girl was only 10 days old. I know, that's really me. I did not steal it from the internet, I swear. I don't have memories of what happened during the Vietnam War, but I will never forget what it was like growing up under the Vietnamese communist regime. It was horrific. At age of 2, my parents divorced. My dad took me with him and moved back to his parents' house, a small town 200 miles away from Saigon City. When I was only 6 years old, a group of men in green uniform raided our house in the middle of the day and took my dad away. Nobody told us why. Years later, I learned the reason why the government put my dad in jail for 2 years because he did not have an approved permit to have people over to practice singing for his church. For my dad, the real question wasn't why should we leave Vietnam, but how? My dad and I first attempted to flee the country when I was only 8 years old. We have tried to escape the country so many times, but we did not succeed. When I was only 11 years old, my dad and I were captured and arrested by the government. My dad was in jail for 2 years, and I was also served 10 days in jail. Finally, in April 1989, my dad and I would successfully escape the country. Imagine 67 people were squeezed on this small fishing boat. With little of food and water, we sail out to sea with that one determination is seeking for freedom. Imagine 67 people were adrift at sea on this small fishing boat without any water or food for days. There were times we look at our neighbors, the one on the right, the one in front of us, the one on the left. We had said goodbye to each other because we didn't think we'd be able to make it. We spent 7 days in the ocean, but we finally made it to land, to the refugee camp, an island called Pulau Bidong in Malaysia. What life was like in Malaysia in the refugee camp. Picture you are being put in this isolated area, waiting for your trial. You don't know the fate of your future. You don't know whether or not you are returned back to the Vietnamese communists. You don't know how long you're being kept here. There were a group of 10 of us assigned to this small space. It's actually probably half the size of this stage. 10 of us. You utilize the same space to hang out, to eat, and to sleep. Of course, we did not have the comfort of homes like a comfortable bed, BJ, or onesie, that, fancy stuff that we now, to go to bed with. Speaking of eating, the only thing that available for us there was either chicken, sardines, instant noodles, and of course rice. We could not live without rice, right? Did I also mention we also ate all the chicken bones? We did not waste anything. At age of 14, like most teenagers, I would often dream about freedom. Okay, it's not the same kind of freedom most teenagers nowadays wish to have when their parents not home. Like stay up all night watching YouTube video or play video games and eat all the ice cream they want, right? I would often go to this cliff alone and look out to the massive ocean. I would often dream about freedom. What would freedom feel like? What would freedom look like? This land of freedom people call America. I would often dream about getting out this place, this refugee camp. I dream about having an education. After 3 years, my dad and I received a good news. We are going to America. I had been counting days, minutes, down to seconds to leave this part of my life behind. That day finally here. With mixed emotion, I was leaving the refugee camp with a heavy heart, sadness, and guilt. The most difficult thing I ever had to do was saying goodbye to my relatives, my friends, my Vietnamese people who are still left behind in the refugee camp. They don't know the fate of their future. I don't know will I ever see them again. Coming to America, it was such an amazing feeling to be able to see the real world again. At the age of 17, I got to go on an airplane for the first time. I was reunited with my mom, who I had not seen for the last 15 years. America, to me, is a place in heaven. Everything's beautiful here. Nice cars, big tall buildings. I was fascinated about everything. I wanted to eat everything. I know I've been hungry for the last 3 years. I remember one time I ate the entire whole package of grapes, probably 3 pounds of grapes in one setting. That explains why I don't touch grapes again. And the mall was also my favorite place to hang out, but not to shopping, but to go there to ride the escalator. I love to ride the escalator up and down. Despite at age of 17 and a half, I enrolled to be a freshman of high school. I struggled a lot, not only because I did not speak a word of English, but because I did not have an opportunity to go to school for years. You know, kids in high school can be brutal sometimes. I often got teased of, called names. Sometimes they even throw rocks at me just because I looked different and I did not speak English. I managed to graduate after 2 years. I got married right after I graduated from college. 15 months later, my beautiful daughter, Jacqueline, was born, my little baby girl. Well, she's not too little anymore. She's now 18, a freshman of college at University of Pacific in Stockton, proud mama. 15 months later, I give my daughter Jacqueline the biggest gift, little brother, my baby boy. Well, he's not too little anymore. He's here in the audience with me today. What would you do and how would you feel when someone you thought you're going to spend the rest of your life with looked at you in the eyes and said, I don't love you anymore. You just quit your job and moved to the new city for his job. You didn't know a single person here, and your children was only 6 and 5. What would you do when you advised to give up the custody of your own children because you accused of being unfitted mom, because you did not have a job, because you were sad and emotionally unstable? I am blessed. Only 2 weeks after I submitted my resume online, I was hired by CG as a contractor for only 6 weeks period. I celebrated 12 years with Capital last March. You know, being a single mom is tough. My toughest part was sometimes when my kids are not at home, that loneliness kick in. These days feel very lonely. But I know I need to focus on raising my children. So every time I'm feeling lonely, I would put on my shoes and take my lonely self out for a run. Try that. And when on the weekends, when I did not have my kids, I signed up to run. I start out with a half marathon. Eventually, I graduate to a full marathon, and then ultra. In 2011, I joined this local running group to go to Ireland and run my first 39 miles. Here, I met another fellow runner. His name is Jason McGee. He's now my husband of 2 years. That's right. Keep running, keep running. Single ladies, keep running, I'm telling you. I have come a long way of healing and to better myself, to be a mother to my own children, and be a better wife, and most importantly, be a better individual. I am so blessed and grateful for my children, Jacqueline and Alexander. They are my North Star on those darkest moments when I couldn't see anything. I didn't know where to go. I look at my children, my North Star. I know exactly where to go, and I'm in the bright sunshine area now. Every refugee who has had to flee their lives in search of freedom for themselves and for their families. I have been running from danger ever since I was a baby. I am not afraid to run alone. And all of these years and all of this running, I now can say, I am free. truly free to be happy and to be myself. Thank you.